Hello students, Navankur Vidyapit welcomes you in Digi Lessons. Today we are going to study snapshots, supplementary reader in English for class 11th core course, chapter birth, subject English. Birth chapter by A.J. Cronin. In this excerpt from the Citadel, Andrew Manson, newly out of medical school, has just begun his medical practice as an assistant to Dr. Edward Page in the small Wells mining town Blanley as he is returning from a disappointing evening with Christine, the girl he loves. He is met by Joe Morgan. Joe and his wife, who have been married nearly 20 years, are expecting their first child. Introduction excerpt from the Citadel. Andrew Manson recently completed his education at medical school, just began his medical practice as an assistant to Dr. Edward Page in a small mining room, mining town. Returning home nearly midnight after spending a disappointing evening with his girlfriend, Christine, reached near his house, met Joe Morgan, whose wife needed immediate medical attention. A night call, 20 years of marriage of Joe and Susan, expecting their first child, Andrew asked Morgan to wait, fetched his bag, set out for Morgan's house, didn't know that this night would prove unusual and influence his whole future. At the patient's house, Andrew climbed a narrow staircase which led to a small bedroom, clean, poorly furnished, lit by an oil lamp. Patient lay on bed. Mrs. Morgan's mother and an elderly midwife were beside her. Examined the patient, knew that there would be a period of waiting, come down to sip tea, tired, but decided to stay there. Thoughts on marriage. An hour later, went upstairs, noted the progress made. Old lady was watching his face intently. Henry was lost in his own thoughts. Brainwell, who was deceived by a woman, Edward Page, who was married to the ill natured Bloodwine and was living unhappy apart from his wife, concluded that all marriages are failures. Then thought of Christine, wished to consider marriage as a pleasant state. Then began thinking of Christine for a long time. A long wait, hard. The old woman's voice told him not to give her daughter chloroform as it would harm the baby. Andrew answered that the anesthesia won't harm. Looked at the clock, which showed 3:30. A long wait went to the bedroom. Andrew's dilemma. An hour long, harsh struggle. At dawn, woman gave birth to a still child. Andrew gazed at the lifeless form, shivered with horror, looked at the mother in a desperate state, needed immediate attention. Andrew's desire to bring the child back to life and his obligation towards his mother. The dilemma solved, gave the child to the nurse, turned his attention to the mother, faint, pulseless, no strength, and you made efforts to restore her. Gradually, her heart strengthened. Out of danger, child's condition, midwife was frightened, taking as it has a still child, almost dumped it beneath the bed amongst the soaked newspaper. Andrew pulled out the child, a perfectly formed boy, limbs warm, body was white and soft, skin lovely, smooth, tender, head was hanging loosely on the thin neck, limbs seemed boneless. Knew it was a case of suffocation caused by lack of oxygen and excess of carbon dioxide in the blood, accompanied by pale skin, weak pulse. Efforts to bring the child back to life. Suddenly remembered such a case in the Samaritan and the treatment that had been used, ordered the nurse to get him hot water and cold water and basins, laid the child upon the blanket, began the special method of respiration, splashed cold water in one basin and lukewarm in another. 15 minutes passed, but no breath came from the body. Sense of hopelessness. Midwife watched with an alarming face. All of a sudden, she said, "For mercy's sake, doctor, it's stillborn." And you paid no attention to it. A miracle, and you still persisted in one last effort, rubbed the child with a towel crust, relaxed the little chest with both his hands, rubbed his efforts. Child was no gasping, had no longer lay back lifeless, skin was turning pink. Then came the child's cry. Nurse cried, "It's come alive." A sigh of relief handed the child to the nurse. Now he felt weak. Room was in a mess. Mother was still under the effect of anesthesia. Old woman stood against the wall. Her lips were moving in inaudible prayer, and he told Joe that both were all right. Walked away, walked under the morning sky. Sigh few minutes, kept thinking, "I have done something, oh God, I have done something great at last." Now question answers. First, I have done something, oh God, I have done something real at last. Why does Andrew say this? What does it mean? Answer. Andrew Manson was a doctor of self-reliant and handsome sense of satisfaction. He was aware of his duty. He was a young doctor. He saved two lives. Firstly, he saved Susan Morgan. He brought her safety. Secondly, the most incredible work was to save the child. The stillborn child was kept in newspapers under the bed. The nurses had thought the child dead. Dr. Andrew Manson was in belief that he would save the child. It was nearly midnight. Joe Morgan was waiting for him. She needed immediate help. Now the doctor had accepted the challenge to prove unusual. He took the child and rubbed him with a towel. He tried to get breath into the limp body. Then a miracle happened. The child started breathing and cried. When he was sure that his task was over, he gave child to the nurse and said, "I have done something, oh God, I have done something real at last." Second, there lies a great difference between textbook medicine and the world of practicing physician. Discuss textbook medicines may give a physician information regarding the illness, but the reality in stranger than fiction. A practicing physician has to deal with all kinds of situations. Sometimes the textbook medicines and treatments don't work. All the doctors do their best effort in treatments. This is exactly what happened with Henry Manson. He wasn't treating according to the textbook but acted instinctively. The miracle result come out. He not only saved Susan Morgan but gave the life of limb child too. A practicing physician has to use his mind along with his knowledge of textbook medicines. Third, do you know of any incident when someone has been brought back to life from the brink of death through medical help? Discuss medical procedures such as transplant and organ regeneration that are used to save human life. So students may attempt themselves. So you should try. Thank you, students.